dolls with soulless eyes peering out from the shadows, mirrors reflecting ghastly figures from beyond the grave, books whispering secrets from between their yellowed pages, or jewelry trinkets pulsing with an evil energy. Some say such objects are nothing more than mere superstitions, while others swear they've experienced the terrifying reality of cursed objects haunting their every waking moment. What if a haunted artifact from the abyss is now lurking within your own home, waiting to unleash its unholy influence upon you and yours? Welcome back, everyone. Here, we love sharing stories about the things that go bump in the night. Today, we bring you a tale of terror, featuring a cursed object that brings doom to its unsuspecting owners. If you enjoyed this story, please remember to support us. Now, let's begin our chilling tale of haunted houses. The attic was filled with dust-laden relics from a bygone era, each item holding secrets from the house's former inhabitants. Among them, a porcelain doll with vacant blue eyes sat perched upon a trunk, seemingly frozen in mid-gasp. Her name was Celeste. My mother found her hidden away after my father had passed, and she was the only thing from the attic that my mother allowed into the house. She placed Celeste in my room, and every night before bed, I would gaze at her unblinking stare, wondering about the life-size doll. As weeks went by, though, I grew tired of Celeste's accusing eyes following me around my room. I wished my mother had thrown her away. One evening, just as I was drifting off to sleep, I heard the distinct sound of footsteps pacing back and forth outside my door. I sat straight up in bed, listening intently. More footsteps approached my bed. Then I saw Celeste's lifeless eyes staring directly at me, her lips pulled back in a silent scream. Then it happened again. I turned off the lights and burrowed under the covers, hugging my teddy bear close for comfort. The scratching at my door grew louder, more insistent. Then, suddenly, it stopped. I peeked over the edge of the bed to see Celeste sitting on the floor, her porcelain face illuminated by a sliver of moonlight. I screamed for my mother and huddled in the corner, paralyzed with fear. When my mother rushed into my room, she found Celeste lying peacefully in my bed, her glassy eyes staring blankly ahead. Relieved, I told my mother what had happened. She listened patiently, then simply shrugged. "It was probably just a mouse," she said dismissively, tucking me in for bed. But I knew it had been something more, something sinister, lurking in the darkness of my room, and I suspected Celeste was somehow involved. From that night forward, I never slept soundly again. Each time I closed my eyes, I saw Celeste standing over me, her expression twisted into a horrifying snarl. I tried everything to escape the torment, wearing myself down until I could no longer take the sight of her accusing eyes. I begged my mother to allow me to throw Celeste away, but she refused. "She may be creepy, but she's harmless," she insisted. But I knew better. I felt the doll's evil presence seeping into my very being, poisoning my thoughts and turning my days into a blur of paranoia and fear. One day, while exploring the attic with my mother, I spotted a glint of metal in the corner. Hidden beneath some old rags was a small wooden box adorned with intricate carvings. I pried it open, revealing an antique silver locket nestled inside. Its surface shimmered with an otherworldly glow that seemed to pulse faintly like a heartbeat. Curiosity overcame me, and I opened the locket, revealing 2 miniature portraits. But as I gazed upon the faces captured in the photographs, a chill ran down my spine, for they were not of any living person, but of 2 little girls who appeared eerily similar to me. Startled by the unsettling image, I slammed the locket shut, unaware that in doing so, I had sealed my fate. Since that fateful day, the locket has become my constant companion, hanging heavy on my neck like a millstone around my soul. Whenever I glance down at its surface, the faint pulsing seems to intensify, as if feeding on my fear, though I try desperately to resist its allure. The locket's icy touch against my skin sends shivers down my spine, and I find myself inexplicably drawn to its dark embrace. I've tried in vain to rid myself of the cursed jewelry, but it clings to me relentlessly, refusing to be removed. I yearn for the day when I can cast off this burden, but until then, I am trapped in its icy grip, forever bound to its sinister purpose. That night, as I drifted off to sleep, I dreamed of two little girls who reached out to me from beyond the grave. Their mournful eyes and ethereal whispers echoed in my dreams. Help us. I awoke with a start, my heart pounding in my chest. The locket around my neck seemed to pulse with an ominous glow. As the hours ticked by, I grew increasingly uneasy, sensing the presence of something dark and sinister lurking near me. Then, as if to confirm my darkest fears, I heard the sound of footsteps padding softly across my room. The scratching grew louder, accompanied by the distinct creaking of floorboards. Suddenly, the doorknob to my room began to turn slowly. I froze in place, unable to move as the door creaked open, revealing an inky blackness that seemed to devour the light. I screamed for my mother, my voice echoing in the vast emptiness. But no one came. And so I ran, stumbling blindly through the darkness, the footsteps pursuing me relentlessly. Just when I thought I could run no more, I burst through another door, finding myself in my mother's room. Gasping for breath, I collapsed onto her bed, burying my face in her pillow. My mother stirred awake, her eyes fluttering open in surprise. As I recounted the terrifying experience, she listened patiently. Finally, she placed a comforting hand on my shoulder. "Don't worry, darling," she said soothingly. "It was probably just a dream." Yet even as she spoke, I saw a flicker of fear cross her face that mirrored my own. Was she, too, aware of the malevolent entity that now haunted our home? Days turned into weeks, yet the scratching and whispering persisted, driving me to the brink of madness. One evening, as twilight painted the sky in hues of purple and gray, I felt the familiar scratching at my door once more. Summoning every ounce of strength, I stood up to confront whatever lurked outside. The doorknob trembled as unseen fingers raked across the wood. With a trembling hand, I opened the door, ready to face my fears head-on. But instead of the menacing figure I had imagined, I saw nothing. Disheartened, I closed the door and returned to my chair. Suddenly, the scratching started again, this time coming from inside the room. I spun around to see Celeste standing on my dresser, her porcelain face contorted in a grotesque snarl. Her eyes burned with an eerie glow as she beckoned with a finger for me to follow. I wanted to call out for help, but no sound escaped my lips. Mesmerized by the doll's hypnotic stare, I found myself rising from my chair and walking slowly toward the closet. With each step, the scratching grew louder, driving me deeper into the abyss of madness. And then, as I stared into the closet's gaping darkness, I saw it, the source of all the scratching, the evil presence that had tormented me for so long. It was the locket, or rather, it was something inside the locket. I forced myself to reach inside and retrieve the object. My fingers brushed against something cold and hard, like a tiny bone. With a Herculean effort, I pulled it free. Clutching the object in my hand, I stumbled backward, knocking over my chair in the process. The scratching abruptly stopped, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. As I held the object aloft, it began to glow faintly, revealing its true form. It was a miniature coffin, no bigger than my thumb. I stared in disbelief, my mind struggling to comprehend what I was seeing. Had the entity that had haunted me all this time been trapped within the locket? And what was it doing here? Before I could dwell on the question, the scratching started again, this time coming from the direction of the attic stairs. Whatever had been trapped inside the locket was now loose in the house, and it seemed to be searching for me. Panic seized me and I fled, racing down the stairs and out the front door without a backward glance. I ran blindly through the streets, the rhythmic scratching echoing behind me. I dared not stop to look back, knowing that if I did, whatever was chasing me would catch up and drag me back to my nightmare. I haven't looked back since. And even now, years later, the scratching still echoes in my nightmares, a haunting reminder of the cursed locket and the evil presence that lingers just beyond my sight. Tell us, what do you think happened to the main character? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to support us. And be sure to join us next time for more tales of terror. Until then, sleep tight and don't let the cursed objects bite.